This is going to be a Premiere refresher, a quick start, going to edit together a video, work with the audio as well, and use Media Encoder because Media Encoder is one of the hubs for rendering out things if not doing it natively in Premiere or After Effects. To start, open up Premiere, click on New Project or File New Project. Pick a location for the project. So choose a location. I made a shortcut. This is my intro to Premiere. So I'll select this folder and click on Choose. Also name this project, and this is going to be the intro to Premiere. Click on the Create button. This is your default workspace. Just going to resize things a little bit. You can click here to import media assets. Then I have this folder. I'm going to select everything and then deselect on a Mac, holding down the Command key, because I don't need this folder or this zip file or this After Effects file. And just drag that and place it right here, all 7 of those. You can begin a new timeline by just dragging out all your media and dumping it here. Doing it this way, the sequence is set to be the size of the media. However, you might have certain specs. Maybe doing it this way isn't best, so I'll hit delete. And maybe you like dragging in a video at a time instead of dumping everything out on the timeline. Clicking this button for new item, and you want to create a sequence, or under File, New, Sequence, same thing. I'm going to click here, select the sequence, HD 1080, which is 1920 by 1080 square pixels. And this is the one I'm looking for at 29.97 frames per second. Sequence 01 could be a good name. I might just call it Intro or Final Intro. Now I could drag one at a time. Now that I dragged out the first one, since my video is a different size, it's going to say keep existing settings, which is my sequence settings, or convert my sequence to the settings of this video. I want to keep my existing settings. Since all the videos are the same, and I did create them in order, I'm going to select all of them and just drag right here. If I go up one video track by dragging before I release, you can see that the audio separates as well. That's the way Premiere works, keeping things equally distant away. I'm going to drop it here and keep existing settings. And the next part is to go through, edit the video. I'm not going to edit all this live. I'll edit it later. I did save it though, just in case. So for editing purposes, you press the space bar to preview the timeline sequence, and you'll press it again to stop it. And here might be my first cut, using the cursor keys on the keyboard, the left and right arrows, to go right before the audio begins. This is the zoom, so you could zoom in a lot more, right down here. With this clip selected, pressing Command K will cut it. To delete this first part that's still there, hold down the Option Delete key. That's the top delete key on the keyboard, and that removes it. This works in the middle of timelines, let's say right here. Command K, and I don't see any audio happening to here. Command K, with this clip selected, Option Delete. If you want to insert something in between clips, even though everything's already there, maybe I want to cut to this shot real quick. Holding down the Command key on the keyboard and dragging your clip, see how all those arrows appear? This will do an insert right here. When you release it, everything gets pushed over. If I didn't want that, select Option Delete, and that's gone again. Now, your audio and video tracks are connected. To unconnect them, maybe you want to throw out audio on a track, whatever reason. Right-click, unlink, and then you can throw it out, substitute in new audio to link them together again. Shift-click both of them, or you can marquee select both of them, and right-click, link. You will continue editing. Now, what will render out is this whole workspace. If you didn't want this whole workspace to render out, let's say you just wanted to do a little part, like here, press the O for out. Now when you render, it's only going to render up to here. If you want to do in point, I for in, only this segment is the active rendering segment. To clear this, so your whole sequence will render again, right click, clear in, clear out, or clear in and out. Let's listen to a little of the audio, and then I'll show you how to clean it up here and also using Adobe's wonderful web tool. So spacebar to play. The right software installed. You probably have everything on your system. If you listen real closely, you can hear background noise. I'll just do a small clip. Let's say just to hear O for out. I want to repair this. Few things can happen. I could go to Adobe Audition. I'll do that next before the end of this video. For now, I just want to repair this clip. One way would be going under Windows, Essential Sound. Under Presets, selecting Podcast Voice, and then adjusting this. Maybe I want to increase the decibels. Go to adobe.com. But right here, in between, you still hear the hissing. Now, I can correct this in Adobe Audition, but there's a much easier way to correct this. Let me export just this as an MP3. File, Export, Media. Now, I can do this in Media Encoder. I'm going to use Premiere Pro's export function. The type of format, I just need an MP3 file, and AIFF file would do as well. So selecting MP3, this is where it's going to save the file. Let me choose a better location. Try to keep all your assets in the same folder. You can collect your projects afterwards, but then that just duplicates files out on your hard drive. So yes, collect your files if you need to organize them, but if you start organize, you'll save space. This is my Intro to Premiere folder, and Intro MP3 is good. It's more efficient to do this at the end of the project. I'm going to click on Export. I'm giving a demo, so I'm just going to repair this little piece. Now, I have to go to that folder that disappeared. That's where a Media Encoder is a little more handy. It gives you a hyperlink to the folder, and when you have a hyperlink to your folders, you're saving time. See how I'm wasting a little time in this video? Going to the right folder and just locating the MP3 file. Next, I'm opening a browser. I'm going to this URL, pressing enter. You might have to sign in if you're already not signed in. And this will do instant cleanup on the podcast voice. Let me focus in on my window. Here's the MP3 that I saved out from Premiere, and I'm dragging and dropping it here. Give it a minute or two. It's usually very quick, and you'll hear it's going to remove the background noise, which is my goal, and it also will enhance the voice. Listen online. Let's take a look at getting the right software installed. You probably have everything on your system. You can increase and decrease the strength of the enhancement, but I'm usually happy at the default of 90. You would click download. Now this is about file maintenance. You can have files all over the place. This is my download folder. I'm copying that. I'm going to my project folder, pasting my file in there. And now I'm going to drag. I don't need this window open anymore. And I don't need this one. Let me just focus everything on the task. I'm dragging the enhanced MP3 that was created out online to my project window. And from there, I could drag it right here underneath it and then mute this channel. But that's a little sloppy, isn't it? Let's take a look at getting the right software installed. Now, I mentioned having these extra tracks as it's easy to see where you replace things, but muting a track could get you in a little trouble because what if later on you had something important on a top track and you just muted everything? Right click, unlink, as I did before, delete, and then I could slip this in here and then selecting them both, right click and link again, and now you're ready to go. Oops. See, I forgot to unmute the track. Let's take a look at getting the right software installed. Now, one last thing before I render this out. Editing in Premiere, correcting audio, two different ways, Essential Sounds or exporting the MP3 using the free Enhance tool from Adobe. Now, what if you needed to correct something in here? Or you need people to talk a little bit quicker. You edit the speed and duration here. Let's do something big, like 200%. Listen to the voice.
Let's take a look at getting the right software installed.
You don't want that to happen. So let me break this link again, unlink. Selecting only the track, the audio track, right click, and edit clip in Adobe Audition. This will open up a separate piece of software where I'm going to show you how you can tweak the speed without it sounding like a chipmunk. The difference is this is going to be a process versus just squishing time or stretching time. You can squish and stretch time both in Premiere and After Effects, but that kind of compresses or stretches out the sound wave. And by doing so, you're distorting too much. So you have to perform a process on this audio. If you needed to correct something, let's say you just want to delete this, just select and press delete, but we don't want to do that. I want to speed up the sound. So selecting everything, go to Effects, Time and Pitch, and select Stretch and Pitch Process. And this is going to be the magic. You could get away with 92% without it sounding weird. Really, 95% is a better choice. If you're trying to fit voiceover, especially when voiceovers are done in multiple languages, they don't always end at the same moment. And so you might use stretch a bit to either pull out, stretch the voice, or to press it a bit. So 92% will save me some time. My original time is 18 seconds. My new time is roughly 17 seconds. So 1 second makes a big difference when you have a 30-second spot and you actually have to end it within 30 seconds. So click Apply. It's a quick process. You can play here by pressing the space bar.
Let's take a look at getting the right software installed.
I don't hear a difference. Command S, save. So this is a way to save time, speed up your videos a little bit, making sure you process the audio separate from just stretching the timeline, stretching the speed of the video itself. After I saved it, it's right here, and off here, this shows where the audio file originally ended, and the hashes is the new time setting. So now it's dragged down to here. We don't need to do anything about it. Selecting these two clips, the video and audio, right-clicking, and linking them together again.
Let's take a look at getting the right software installed.
All right. Last part is rendering to Media Encoder. And this is just the intro. We'll go a little deeper to Media Encoder later on. Make sure you're focused in on this space, because if you happen to be focused in on some other window, you're not going to be able to send it to Media Encoder. So Premiere needs to know what you want to render. So my focus is right here on the timeline. File, Export. And if you go to Media, there's another button that leads you to Media Encoder, but you might as well just send to Adobe Media Encoder directly. Here's Media Encoder. In my previous projects, I'm going to select, hold down the Shift key, and press the Delete key because I don't need those anymore. This is my current project. Now, it's not an MP3. It picked up MP3 from my original Premiere project when I was exporting just the MP3. So click here and choose H.264. Another video is going to show you about making custom settings. For now, selecting Adobe Stock is a good option. I'm going to select the one with audio right here. So Adobe Stock HD, not 4K, HD with audio. I'm going to select where to save this. And by default, it's going to be in the source folder. I'll call it my temp final because I actually have to make this video. This is just a demo. Before exporting, let me take a look at the options. I'm going to click this link, which brings up the effects, video, audio. It's 1920 by 1080. If you need to shift sizes or match the source, in case your source is a different size and you could uncheck this and type in new numbers. If you need, for whatever reason, width and height not to be linked together, you click that and then type in new numbers, making a square video. So this is how it's going to look. However, I don't want that. I'm going to match the source. Click OK. Before I hit render, this is why you would use Media Encoder. You can hit Command D to duplicate. And let's say besides the 1920, you also need to output a 1280 video. After you duplicate it, I'm going to go here, uncheck this, and just type in 1280, hit enter. And I should have linked those together. So let me unlink that and type in 720. Boom. And now they're linked together, so I could type in 1280 by 720. So if I typed in like 1920, it's automatically going to fill in the proportion 16 by 9, 1080. But as I mentioned, I want 1280. And click OK. You can continue and create a list of renderings. Maybe the renderings have, some renderings have the titles burnt in, maybe some have adjustments for the colorization, or some have just different size outputs. So that's the power of Media Encoder. You can do all this in the background while you still work in Premiere, After Effects, or wherever else. I don't need this one, so I'm selecting this and hitting delete. Yes, I'm sure to delete that one even though it wasn't rendered. And now I'll click the green button to render it. I mentioned this earlier in Premiere, even though it showed where the file was rendered to and then it disappeared. Here, there's a hyperlink, so if you click the hyperlink, you actually open the targeted folder, which saves time. That's just 1 second away versus a few seconds away. You can play your video.
Let's take a look at getting the right software installed.
And I'll drag it. And this ends exactly where my out point ended. And that's your introduction to Premiere connected to Media Encoder. I showed you how to correct audio using the Sound Essentials, and it's just a brief introduction. We'll go deeper as we need to with different videos, different projects. I hope you enjoyed this review / introduction to Premiere and Media Encoder and sound and editing. In case you need to do an insert of a shot, I did show that if I want, I could just drag the shot here and holding down the Command key, it inserts. And now my new shot's here, even though my out point's there. So maybe I'll clear my out point, right click, clear in and out. The other way to go to keep the audio going is to drag the video above one track like this. So now you're cutting in between.
Software installed. You probably have.
If I'm not using this audio track right here, yes, you can mute it. However, if you're not using it, just unlink it and delete it. This way, it's not going to create any problems when you drag this clip around and maybe it bumps out another audio track layer. Another thing you'll need is the A key, pressing A, and you can see that the A will allow you to slip anything beyond on the right side the playback head. Since my audio down here was on this side of the playback head, even though it's on the left side, it's also slipping. Let me hit undo, Command Z. To prevent something from moving, because these two are moving correctly, to lock that layer, just hit the V key, and that gets out of the A mode of moving your footage. Click on the lock. And now I'm selecting this and pressing the A key again. And everything moves. Let me zoom out. If I want to delete the space in between, V key, go back to the selection tool, and then right click, ripple delete.